The Hanover Planning Commission just recommended denial of the HHHunt Technology Park. We're going to recap what happened at that meeting, where we go from here, and what we may still need to pay attention to in this video. What is going on, guys? My name is Chris Elliott, local realtor, Wyndham resident. I've also got Miss Colleen Bowman back on the program, fellow Wyndham resident, founder of Neighbors for Change. Colleen, how you doing today?
I am doing great. It's been a good week. Thanks for having me back to talk about this.
Amen to that. It has been a great week, and we're going to jump right into it because I've got a hard stop here in 30 minutes. Colleen's got an exercise class, and we would not want to get in the way of that. So let's jump into it. Colleen, recap for the folks at home that maybe weren't at the meeting. What was the meeting that just occurred? What happened, and what was the significance of that?
So this was the Hanover County Planning Commission meeting, and the Planning Commission is basically the group of folks who are focused on the plan for the county, short-term and long-term. And they have the authority with these zoning requests to recommend approval with amendments, recommend denial or deferment. And so their vote means that it's ready to go to the Board of Supervisors for a vote. So the vote specifically on Thursday evening to recommend denial of the hunting hawk proposal means that they determined from the information they received from the applicant, from the public hearings, from the independent studies that they commissioned, and from the financial analysis and planning department research that the applicant did not make the case that the zoning should be changed.
Yes, and that was very well recap there. Talk to me, Colleen, about I was coming literally off of a flight, coming home from California conference. So I was a little late to the rally. Talk to me about the rally. Talk to me about what happened there. That was good theater, to say the least. But tell me about that, and then talk to me about some of the highlights of the meeting for you. It was definitely entertaining at times. If you weren't at the meeting, you certainly missed a good time. But talk me through those.
So the rally was organized by Friends of Hanover, which is a grassroots group out of Hanover County, led by an energetic woman named Jennifer Corpus, who got the word out and built and leveraged relationships with other groups. They basically just wanted to show the people walking into the meeting and the news media that there was a really organized and caring amount of support against this. They, had their cute raccoons and tomatoes signs and some speakers lined up, some very good speakers lined up. And I feel like it was a good message sent. I know I walked inside during the rally to make sure they had my slide, and I could hear the rally from inside the room where the Planning Commission was. So I know that they were aware that it was out there.
Yeah, and obviously the Planning Commission, the decision was theirs, and I think we all respect the rule of law and kind of how these things are decided. But I think the one good thing of the rally was folks were able to make it overwhelmingly, abundantly clear to the Planning Commission that, hey, we do not want this. I think that was very effective. I got to give a special shout out to Nan Nguyen, who is the creator of the Raccoon Tomato, which if you know, you know. I think we have a merchandise opportunity there. Also shout out, who apparently is going viral on Instagram, is Christian Fowler, who I believe is 10, I might be getting that wrong, 10 years old, talked about the fact that he lives very close to where this would be. He's got asthma, and essentially his doctor said, hey, if this gets built, it's probably gonna be advisable to move because it's not good for you. So shout out to that young man and the courage that he had to speak. I've got my favorites. What were some of the more entertaining moments of the Planning Commission meeting for you?
Well, when I saw the list of signups and I saw that there were 13 people signed up in support of the proposal, I was like, okay, who are they getting to come testify on behalf of this? But
real quick, sorry to interrupt you. For the folks at home that maybe weren't at the meeting, talk about the structure of the meeting and kind of the time allotments for the public hearing, if you would.
Sure thing. So basically, typically Hanover only has 15 minutes. Proponent speaks, opponent speaking opportunities for their public hearings. For this particular situation, they knew there was a lot of interest, so they extended it to up to 90 minutes for opponents and for proponents to speak. And so they had a sign up because they needed to limit that and have people know if they were going to talk when they came to the meeting or not. So there were 30 speaking spots for people against and 30 speaking spots for people for.
3 minutes a pop. All right, now that we've covered that, we've kind of laid that groundwork. Tell me about what was fun for you.
Well, as I mentioned, there were spots for proponents, and I was surprised that so many folks were signed up there. But it turned out that one of those folks was there to support it, and he made a great case. He was very well spoken, and he made a very strong case for why all these construction jobs are very good for the economy. And I applaud him for speaking his truth there, and it's absolutely valid. But the rest of the folks who signed up were just mad that they couldn't get a spot to speak in opposition, so they signed up for the support spots and made it very humorous. There was a lot of good satire out there. I especially appreciated I would just love my whole community to look just like Loudoun County. I'm really excited about that. They took the opportunity and ran with it.
Yeah, it was, so there was a gentleman that basically went through a whole thing, like a satirical piece of like, hey, I would love it. A sign looked like a hum, 24/7 hum, and like went on for 3 minutes. It was hilarious. Everybody was laughing.
Something to do in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, I wish we got that recorded. I hope somebody did. There was 3 folks that talked in favor of it. One of the gentlemen said it was going to be economic for the county to bring in tax revenue. Another one was an electrician that said, hey, this was good for the economy, which I don't deny. I do wonder if that gentleman who lived in Mechanicsville would feel the same way if it was being built next to his house. And then the third one was kind of a weird older gentleman that was from, I forget which county, but it seemed like it was from Western Dickinson County, who basically said, hey, our area had been raped and robbed for minerals for mining operations. So I want you guys to have this so they don't put it where I live. That was kind of an odd 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So those were the 3 that actually spoke in favor of it. And then everybody else kind of snuck in, which was hilarious. For the folks that denied it, what were some of the stronger points that you think were made?
I think the strongest points that were made were the ones that actually ended up gaining agreement from the Planning Commission, which were that this area they're talking about developing is not in one of the areas that Hanover County has targeted for their emerging development zones. And the roads aren't there. Ashland Road can't support 10 years of construction traffic. There's no public water. There's no public sewer. It's just a bad site. So that argument was, I think, very effective. I think the folks who talked about the timeline, how long this was going to take, 10 years of industrial construction is very disruptive. And I feel like there was a gentleman from Goochland, actually, who spoke at the very end, who came in with his jar of chemicals explaining what was typically in a closed loop cooling system. And originally I thought he was going to ask that they drink it. He ended up just explaining what was in it and shaking the jar around. It was a great visual aid. Ended up tripping up attorney and engineers from the applicant because they refused to answer what was in their closed loop cooling system. And if they won't tell you what's in it, it's bad. I think the Commissioner Abbott referred to it as the mystery fluid going forward after that. So they were very clearly aware that they were not getting the information they were asking for.
Yeah, I missed that one because I'm a child and I have to go to bed by 9 p.m. I personally think one of the stronger arguments that was made as well was, hey guys, we did this comprehensive plan in 2023 for the county. We took months to do it. There was taxpayer money that was spent to put this together. And if we were to change this zoning to accommodate this data center, we're basically just throwing that in the trash can. So what was the point? So, all right, the Planning Commission recommended denial. For the folks at home, what does that mean? Where do we go from here? And why is the fight maybe not quite over yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. So they recommend denial. And now that package of materials that they've collected and all the testimonial emails and all the information they've got goes to the Board of Supervisors, they will have another meeting on February 25th, which is a Wednesday evening, and 6 p.m. And they will have public comment hearing for that as well. So there is another chance to speak. They typically accept the recommendation of their planning commission. However, they don't always. And, recently they voted, not recently, I think it was 2020, they voted against the recommendation to the planning commission to put in the big Wegmans distribution center. And that's still in litigation. So they may be a little sensitive about that right now, but they typically vote with the planning commission, and that's a great sign. But I think we should approach this as a major battle won, but there's still a fight on another front, which is to make sure that we keep the pressure on the Board of Supervisors to make the decision in alignment with that recommendation and to think carefully about other projects of this type.
Yeah, totally. So if somebody there is out there in listener land or watcher land and they would prefer not to see this data center go through, what does continued pressure look like? What are the 1, 2, 3 things that they should do? And I'm going to throw one in. If you don't want this data center, go to the meeting and let your presence be felt. There was a good turnout, but I think there was a lot more people that just assumed other people were going to be filling in, and you have enough of that and nobody comes to the meeting. But anyway, I'm going to shut up. What are the 1, 2, 3 things that you feel like people should do to continue to put pressure on this?
Well, I agree with you completely. Show up to the meeting and you don't have to speak. They made it very easy to let you show what you were thinking about by saying, hey, wear red if you're opposed to this. And there was a standing room only in the lobby for this, which made an impact certainly on the media that was there. So just your presence in opposition makes a difference. The other things you could do are continue to email the Board of Supervisors and the planning department and continue talking to your neighbors, because believe it or not, there are people who are just finding out about this and people who haven't heard about it yet. I'm not sure how, but there are, and let those folks know. Yeah,
totally. Okay, so let's zoom forward into the hypothetical future now. Let's say the Board of Supervisors, February 25th comes, they shoot it down, we all celebrate Jubilee, it's killed. Where do we go from there? Could there be an appeal? What, if anything, could Hunt do with that land? Because they still own that property. And, fortune tell for me a little bit. Where do you think we go post February 25th?
So there's a couple of things that I think could happen. One thing that could happen is that HHHunt could read the writing on the wall and say, well, this is going to get declined. And they could withdraw their zoning request, which would mean that they could resubmit something very shortly, something different. So that's one plan of attack, which would mean, okay, they won't even have a Board of Supervisors meeting because the applicant said, never mind, we're done. And that's happened with other big data center projects in Henrico and other places recently. The other thing that could happen is that they go through the process, they get their denial, and then I believe they have to wait for a period of time before they can resubmit a different proposal. I think it was very clear that this planning commission is not going to approve something that doesn't align with the comprehensive plan or that doesn't provide the investment in the infrastructure to get there. I think the most likely outcome is that they would have to go back to the drawing board on residential development, which is challenging. It's a hard piece of property to make money on from residential because of all the wetlands, and the lack of sewer and water means they have to have drain fields, and that property doesn't perk very well. There's all kinds of problems with it. So it may end up just being that they made a really bad investment, but I imagine they will pursue trying to put homes on it again.
Yeah, and personally, I don't think they're just going to sit on that land and do nothing. I've heard some people that have said, well, I hope they just can't do anything with it, which is kind of silly in my book. Right. They're buying it to make a profit. Colleen,
Hanover has zoned it for homes, that's what they intended for.
I would make the argument as a real estate professional, we need more housing. Like if we all want housing affordability to get better, we have to build more homes, right? And everybody wants that, they just don't want it in their backyard. But Colleen, we talked a little bit before we hit the record button. Talk to me about data centers going forward in our region. What's some of the legislation that's kind of in the mix right now? And what are some of the learning lessons? What are some of the takeaways? What are the things that should be on people's radar if they care about our community and care about our Central Virginia area?
So this whole data center fight is national. It's not just here in Central Virginia. The rally and the meeting Thursday drew significant media attention. We had a reporter from the Wall Street Journal. We had NPR out of DC, along with the local TV and print media. So there was a lot of focus and spotlight on this, and that's going to continue. I think that like potholes, data centers are nonpartisan and people are cooperating and collaborating in a way that they haven't typically before. But when you look at what's happening in legislation and here in Virginia, I just saw an article recently that showed that, and I'm looking here for the number, it was over $1.9 billion in tax exemptions went to data centers in fiscal year 2025 alone. I feel like we need to demand that Virginia eliminate those tax incentives that make us so attractive to data center development. I mean, big tech can afford to pay full price here or go somewhere else. And residents deserve to reap the benefit of all that tax revenue if they have to bear the cost. You know, we should be getting great schools and a whole bunch of other investment in our communities, not giving them $2 billion worth of tax incentives. I think we need to insist on like regional oversight because pollution and human impacts don't end at county lines. I would say push your state government to fill those gaps, but I don't see anything on the docket in the General Assembly right now. So that's something to keep pushing on. And just a little note on that, like, legislation does not move quickly. Our government is not going to be able to, over the course of 60 days in January and February, solve these data center problems, but we have to push them so that we get progress every year.
So today is a pretty interesting day. So we're recording this on Saturday the 17th. It is the inauguration of our governor-elect, Abigail Spanberger, the first, from what I understand, the first female governor of Virginia ever.
Yes.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. Talk to me, what, if anything, do you know about her stance when it comes to these data centers? And if you don't, it's fine. But I'm just kind of curious, you know, where she stands on this, the incoming governor of the great state of Virginia.
I have to be honest, I don't know where she stands on it personally. And I think professionally, as the new governor, her stance on it has to be balancing. It's a balancing act. Excuse me, trying to get the balance of growth with reasonable development. That's a challenge that every governor faces. I feel like she's very open to clean energy. She's very open to bipartisan problem solving. So hopefully we'll see some stuff come out of the General Assembly, and that she's certainly far more likely to sign data center legislation than Governor Youngkin was.
Yeah. All right. Well, Colleen, thank you for your time. You got to get to an exercise class. We believe in cardiovascular health. Real quick, just to bring it home, to wrap it up, the Board of Supervisors decision, yay or nay, is going to be on February the 25th, 6 p.m. Is it going to be at the same Hanover County building?
That's where their meetings always are, unless they make some exception to their process.
Okay. And one last time, just to drill it home, what are the 1, 2, 3 things that folks need to do if they would prefer not to see the Hunting Hawk data center go through?
Write the Hanover County Board of Supervisors and express your opinions and attend the meeting. Show up.
Yeah. It's a little late. It's probably going to be a little chilly. Eat a little dinner beforehand, pack a thermos, but show up, let your presence be felt. Colleen, thank you so much for your time this Saturday morning.
All right. Thank you, Chris.